Hello, everybody, and welcome to DolphinsTalk Weekly. I'm your host, Bobby Melendez, and this show is brought to you by DolphinsTalk.com and Immortal One Pictures. Let me give you a brief overview of what we're going to talk about on this program. We're not going to be an hour long or 30 minutes, anything of that nature. It's about to be 10, maybe 15 minutes, maybe even lesser than that. But what we're planning on doing with this program, we're going to talk about the latest rumors regarding the Miami Dolphins, the latest reports and breaking news, and of course, just my reactions to them. And if you have a problem with my reactions, what you can do is follow me at Bobby's DolphinsTalk at Twitter and let me know. Tell me what you think. I'll interact with you, vice versa. Let's get it going. Let's get this community going. DolphinsTalk community. First off, obviously, the big news for the Dolphins is that they made this huge trade with the San Francisco 49ers. They moved from 3 to 12. A lot of people lost their minds. Of course they would. I mean, it kind of takes Miami out of the running of a possible offensive weapon for Tua Tagovailoa. And what does Miami do? Miami turns around and makes another big trade and trades up back to 6. So that kind of guarantees that a player at so one of those top 4 players are going to be at that pick for the Miami Dolphins. So let's talk about how that may play out here. First off, my reaction to the trade, I love it. I think it's best to trade down. You get more picks, and you build around you fill out your roster, and of course you build around your quarterback. Everybody acts like these top 3-4 guys at the top of the tier here when I'm talking about Jamar Chase and Devonta Smith and Jalen Waddle, and of course Kyle Pitts, who's my number one. They think these are the only guys that matter. Well, you still have Randall Moore, and Elijah Moore from Ole Miss, Randall from Purdue. You got Terrence Marshall from LSU. There's still a lot of options for Miami to take later on in the draft. But let's talk about how this top part of the draft may play out. So we got number 1. We know that's Jacksonville. Where Jacksonville's going, they're getting Trevor Lawrence. That's a no-brainer unless they shock the world, which I highly doubt. They're going Trevor Lawrence. So we're going to move on to the Jets. Now the Jets can screw this up because it's the Jets. The Jets screw up a lot of things. So, but the brain trust, the majority of us, and mostly everybody believes New York is going with Zach Wilson out of BYU. I mean, why wouldn't they? The end of the Sam Darnold era, trade him, get another pick, get Zach Wilson, and move it along. Then you got the 3rd pick, which Miami traded out of. That would have been Miami's pick. Miami traded out, got a couple first, and went around and did all that, what they did. San Francisco has that pick now. What does San Francisco do? Now, the report is, my brain says they should go Justin Fields. Okay? Justin Fields, I think, is the second best quarterback in this draft, but, teams can be crazy. Now, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch look like, and the reports are, they favor Mac Jones. So let's say the Niners take Mac Jones. They shock the world. They get Mac Jones. A lot of people are throwing it out there. Oh, are they going to get Kyle Pitts because they still got Jimmy Garoppolo and all that? Let's be real. Jimmy's not working out. I'd be shocked if they stuck with him. I think the draft starts at 4, okay, with the Atlanta Falcons. What are they going to do? Are they going to draft the heir apparent to Matt Ryan? He's due a lot of money next year. I know he's still a decent quarterback. They got a decent team. Julio Jones, who had a tough year last year with injuries. They still got Calvin Ridley. What do they do there? Do they draft the heir apparent? Do they draft Justin Fields? Do they draft Trey Lance? Or do they add on to that offense that looks kind of high-powered if Matt Ryan could get back to what he used to be, and they go Kyle Pitts? I mean, look what that team did years ago with Tony Gonzalez. I mean, and Kyle Pitts seems to be that generational type player. I think my head says if I'm them, I'd go Kyle Pitts. My heart says is that I think they're going to go quarterback here. So let's say the Falcons draft Justin Fields. Now we get to Cincinnati, the 5th pick. Okay, so obvious connection here. Now, they could either, of course, get Kyle Pitts. They got to give Joe Burrow weapons, just like Miami has to give Tua weapons. So those options are Jamar Chase or Kyle Pitts at this point. Of course, they can go the other guys, but really those are the 2 options here. Why Jamar Chase? First of all, he's the number 1 wide receiver on the board. I don't care what anybody says. He took the year off last year. The dude is still the best wide receiver and the most talented on the board. His pro day proved that. So and then obviously, obvious connection is, of course, he played with Joe Burrow during his Heisman Trophy winning year. So why not connect those two guys back together? And of course, you can go Kyle Pitts, who again is the most to me is the generational type player. Play wide receiver, can play tight end. You get your guy, the best weapon in the draft. But then here comes the deal breaker. Okay, so you can go those two guys, and Miami ends up with the best one after that. Or the most logical thing for Cincinnati to do, even though Cincinnati, I believe, got Riley Reiff. They signed him, and they still have Jonah Williams that they drafted a year or two back. But you have a player there. Now, you can, of course, people already go to Panay Sewell from Oregon. That's, you need to protect your guy. He got butchered last season, okay, Joe Burrow. So you automatically think we need to protect our quarterback. So I think they could go offensive tackle here, whether that is Sewell out of Oregon or, of course, the kid out of Northwestern, who's a stud, Rashawn Slater. Okay, so then you're at Miami's pick. Now let's say, for instance, let's say that all these four guys are on the board. What should Miami do? Well, I think what they should do is draft Kyle Pitts. There's no question about this here. Okay, you draft Kyle Pitts. You could do a top two. People go, what about Mike Gesicki? Who cares? Mike Gesicki is great. I think he was my favorite weapon for Miami last year. But why not have more? The more, the merrier, as the saying would go. You bring in Kyle Pitts. You pair him with Mike Gesicki, with Devontae Parker, and Will Fuller. Albert Wilson's coming back. I know Jakeem Grad's back there somewhere. Maybe. Devontae, maybe. I know. But still. Now, this is the whole thing about people thinking that these top four guys are the only guys in the draft. They're not the only guys in the draft. Okay? There's still, again, the kid out of Purdue, the kid out of Ole Miss, the other kid out of Louisville. How about Jamar Chase's partner from LSU, Terrence Marshall? Okay? Those are kids, are not scrubs. This draft is deep at wide receiver. So if Miami was to take Kyle Pitts, pair him with Mike Gesicki, i.e. the Patriots when they were most dominant. I'm not talking about Randy Moss. I'm talking about Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez. That's when the Patriots were dangerous. Tom Brady had legit weapons there. He had these middle-tier receivers, but then he had these stud tight ends. And what did they do? They won a Super Bowl. So I think Flores and Greer both realized that. So keep an eye on that. If Pitts is there, I think Pitts is the pick. Now, your second option, let's say Pitts gets taken by Cincinnati, is Jamar Chase. I know everybody's going to talk about, Devontae Smith, who's a stud, of course, and none of those guys are a bad pick. Any of those guys that Miami takes, if they take them, that's not a bad pick, and none of us should be disappointed with that pick. However, everybody wants to talk about, we got to get the best players or the chemistry between Devonta Smith and Tua Tagovailoa or Jalen Waddle. Those guys are studs, and Jalen Waddle, I see people are bashing him on Twitter, which doesn't make any sense. And you really show you're not that educated on football if you're talking trash about Jalen Waddle. If Miami ends up with Jalen Waddle, you're going to be surprised, and you're going to regret saying what you said. Because remember, there are receipts to this, okay? Jalen Waddle's no scrub, okay? The kid has speed. He has great hands, all right? And, of course, Devonta Smith is out of this world, okay? But I think the best weapon for Tua is Jamar Chase. And I think that's how it's going to go. I think the options are exactly the way I have them ranked. I really do. It's Kyle Pitts is number one, Jamar Chase number two for Miami, despite the report that Miami doesn't want to take any player that opted out in 2020. But when you have a talent like Jamar Chase, you don't pass up on Jamar Chase. Okay? So I think it's Pitts 1, Chase 2, Devontae 3, then Waddle 4. Now, let's not discount this. Let's say Atlanta doesn't draft a quarterback. Let's just say that. And let's say that makes Trey Lance drop a little bit, and they take Kyle Pitts or Jamar Chase. And then you got Cincinnati, and they take one of those top guys or maybe a tackle. Okay? Let's say they do that. Miami's left. Then there's a quarterback on the board. Miami still has a Devontae Smith and a Jalen Waddle still there. If Carolina, you got to keep your eyes on Carolina here. Maybe Denver, maybe, but I really think it's Carolina because they lost out. They're not going to get Deshaun Watson. Who's going to touch Deshaun Watson? Nobody's going to touch Deshaun Watson. They tried to trade up. That's from the report is that they tried to trade up with Miami, but San Francisco offered the better offer. So if they notice that, hey, we got Trey Lance, we're afraid that Denver might jump us or New England or whomever. So what are they going to do? I think Miami's not going to care about jumping 2 spots back to number 8 because you're still guaranteed one of those top guys. So Carolina trades up to 6. Maybe. That was in my mock draft on DolphinsTalk.com. Check it out. Comment on it. Tell me what you like and you dislike. I don't care. I appreciate it. So Miami trades down. Let's say Miami trades down to number 8. They get an extra 3rd round pick as projected in my mock draft. I think Greer does that. He's shown he will do it. So what's the shot? Guess what? So then we go, let's say they get the quarterback. They get Trey Lance or whoever's there, Mac Jones. Then you got Detroit right after Miami at number 7. We know Detroit signed Brashard Perriman and they added Terrell Williams from Dallas. I believe he's from Dallas. Maybe he went for another team, but it doesn't matter. They got those 2 guys to replace Kenny Golladay and Marvin Jones. Do those names scare you? If you're another NFL team, do you think the Lions don't realize those are not premier names? Lions are going to take a receiver. So let's pretend here they're going to take Devonta Smith. Now you end up with Jalen Waddle. Is there anything wrong with that? Absolutely not. Jalen Waddle is going to be a stud, as is Devonta Smith, Jamar Chase, and Kyle Pitts. Okay, so I know people want to react a certain way because they fall in love with a certain player. None of these players are bad. None of these players are scrubs. These guys are all studs. And I think Miami is in a perfect spot with the way Greer played this. To move from 3, to get these extra firsts, to move back to 6, to guarantee he's going to get someone. And if the draft plays out the way I'm talking about here, and possibly 4 quarterbacks or 3 quarterbacks, and there's still a quarterback at 6, Miami can make another move here and gain another pick. All right. Now, let's go over here and let's talk about, now we talked about 6. Most of us all presume Miami's going to go either Kyle Pitts or a wide receiver at 6 here, or 8 if my projection is right in the first mock draft. But let's go down to 18. All right, Miami's at 18. Now let's say Miami may be able to trade up if they notice one of their guys is not getting there. But 18, what happens here? I know the popular opinion, the popular pick for the Dolphins is to go running back with Najee Harris. All right, and I get it. If Miami goes Najee Harris, I ain't going to be mad. I don't think anybody is going to be upset. The kid is a stud. He's 23 years old, but he's built like an ox. I know the comparisons to Derrick Henry out of Tennessee, and people's eyes turn to hearts, and their minds go wild. I get it, but again, as is receiver, running back is a pretty deep class this year, and I don't think people realize. Everybody gets hyped up on the national championships and the highlights and the popular opinions out there, but they don't really look at the whole picture. There's a lot of good backs in this class. Okay, of course you got the kid out of Clemson. You got Travis Etienne, excuse me if I butchered that. You got him, of course. And then you got Javonte Williams out of North Carolina. To me, he's 1B when it comes to running backs, in my opinion, especially big, thick back. I don't think, I don't think we need another receiver type back. All right, we got that in Myles Gaskin, who did very well for us last year. We can't act like that kid's a scrub. He's not a scrub. He's ascending. He's not descending. And then, of course, we got Malcolm Brown from the Los Angeles Rams, who can offer that 1-2 type punch. But I don't think that means we should get out of the market for running back. I think that gives us flexibility at 18 not to take a running back and get the best player available, or what we should be doing, I think, is adding that defensive edge rusher. In my mock draft, I had Kwity Paye out of Michigan, who I think is he's a freak, okay? And, we're not going to get another Emmanuel Akpa out of a free agency and turn into him a stud. That's a dime a dozen, okay? Lightning in a bottle. You need to start preparing to add to that line and, of course, replacing Akpa eventually. So you get Kwity Paye there, or another best defensive end. I mean, Jalen Phillips had a great pro day. That kid's a stud. Gregory Razoo out of Miami. Both guys are out of Miami. You got the kid Jason Oswa, who's a little more, raw type prospect. Didn't have a sack. I get it, but still, you can build on that. And he could do more than just sack. I mean, we learned that with Sue. So I think you go best player available at 18. Now that could be Najee Harris, but I think Miami goes edge rusher here because they need it. That gives them the option at the second pick in the third pick in the second round, their third pick overall. Then they could go possibly running back if Javonte Williams is still there. Then you also got Michael Hill, who is his partner in North Carolina. There's so many options, guys. Let's not harp on the guys that are there and we fall in love with their highlights and everything else. There's so many options for Miami in regards of running back and linebacker, etc. Miami could do so much. and then you got the rumor, not the rumor, excuse me, the pro days. I mean, if you didn't see the pro days, check them out. Everybody seems like they're running a 4-3 or 4-4. I don't think, you got the kid Calvin Joseph. We heard that the report was that Miami's looking at cornerback in the first 3 rounds. And you go, wait a second, why would they do that? Why would they look at corner? They have Byron Jones, who they just signed to a monster deal. They have Xavier Howard, who should have been Defensive Player of the Year. They signed him to a monster deal a couple years back. Here's the thing. And of course, they drafted Noah Akapagap, whatever, his last name. You know who I'm talking about, the first round pick. Okay. They have these guys. They invested a lot in their corners. Well, the report is that Miami is looking at another corner in the possible first 3 rounds. That doesn't shock me. I know it shocks a lot of people there. It doesn't shock me. Why is that? Well, it's because the report is about Xavier Howard. Last year, he had issues with the law, etc. I don't think that's that big a deal. I think Miami's comfortable with that. I think the problem is that Miami talked about, there was a report that Miami talked about trading him. So I don't think it's brand new news newsflash that Miami may consider trading him again, especially with recent news coming out that he hired a new agent and he wants a brand new deal, even though he just signed a new deal and he might end up holding out. Look, that's fine and dandy. That's his prerogative, okay? He can do that. Only issue is that Miami, and I don't think Flores has doesn't have to jump to that. I don't think he's worried about that. And I think that's why Greer is showing his hand here and let that report leak, even though Miami's pretty tight on their leaks, that they may go corner here. So I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not talking about J.C. Horn or Patrick Surtain, even though I love that. I ain't talking about none of those guys, or Caleb Farley, possibly. Well, he could slip. But I ain't talking about those guys because those guys are way up. But hey, Asante Samuel, out of Florida State. That's another junior there. Patrick Surtain Jr., you got Asante Samuel Jr., you got J.C. Horn, who's actually Joe Horn's son. Joe Horn, of course, was a receiver for the New Orleans Saints, and now his son is his top corner in the draft, whose actually stock has gone way up since his pro day. But I'm not talking about those 3 guys because those guys are most likely not going to be there in the second round. But let's talk about Asante Samuel. He's not a scrub. And you also got Calvin Joseph, who's done really well for himself after his pro day. Of course, Kyle Pitts blew him up. Kyle Pitts ran a 4.4. This kid ran a 4.3, and Pitts blew past him in the game they played up earlier this year. But that kid's not a scrub either, and I actually have him projected to Miami with our second round pick. So there's so many options, guys. Look, this is what it's going to be about. This is our first episode. It's going to get better as we go. It's going to get maybe shorter or a little longer, more clear and precise. But this is what we're going to discuss, okay? We're going to talk about only the rumors, the reports, and the breaking news, and we're going to kind of keep it short. So let me know what you think. Tell me what your opinion on it is. And again, don't just look in that little tiny window that people tend to do. Look at the whole picture. There's so much. I know everybody goes, oh, we need this guy for this and that guy for that, and because they're only looking at this one picture. No, you got to look at the whole picture. Look at the entire draft. Look at the entire free agency. Look at it all. Miami has so many options, and it's just an exciting time to be a Dolphins fan. So, again, go to DolphinsTalk.com. You want to check out the latest articles, mock drafts, reports. Go there, check it out. Check out the latest podcast from DolphinsTalk.com daily. And also, of course, you could follow Dolphins Talk at Twitter, at Dolphins Talk. And, of course, you could follow me on Twitter at Bobby Finstalk. I appreciate you for tuning in. I thank you, and I ask you to come back, subscribe, and, hey, have a happy Easter.